Hello everyone and welcome back to Star Stable. Recently the new horse progression system was released in Star Stable and I thought I would make a video all about it from the perspective of a professional trainer. After training every day since the update, I have been seeing what I like, what I don't like, and what I would love to see in the future or what I would love to see improved on. For more information about how I'm training my 300 plus horses, I recently made a video about it that you can check out after this one. As I said, this is from my perspective and how I play Star Stable, why I play Star Stable, and where I get my personal enjoyment of the game from. You might also be a trainer and still have a different trainer's perspective. So if any of these things are different, you're probably going to disagree with the things that I say, but that's okay. I would love to hear about your opinions based from your perspectives in the comments below. A reminder that although the horse progression came out with the user interface update, they are actually two different things, at least in my opinion. Star Stable has officially stated that the UI released is not the final aesthetic, it is kind of like a placeholder, so that they could get the behind the scenes in the game to continue updating things like the new characters coming soon, and they will add the next iteration of the design soon. The horse progression is also still being added to, but we will speak a little bit more about that later. I want to have this video in sections. The first being my raw thoughts, both positive and negative, that I've collected whilst training, things that I thought I wouldn't like but ended up enjoying, etc, etc. The second is going to be a conversation about some Instagram responses I got when I asked you all about it over on my Instagram story. And the final part of the video is going to be going back to the first few blog posts which outline the future of horse progression, including things we don't have yet, and just having a look at it as a whole. Let's get into it. I know that I said the user interface wasn't part of the horse progression, but I thought I'd talk about the user interface that specifically affected the horse progression, I suppose. So first things first, we have the call for pickup. Now, when you call for pickup, it actually confirms it for you. Now, this I actually thought that I would dislike a lot more. When I first saw it, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. It's another button to press. I personally, how I play Star Stable is to call for pickup. I click escape so it brings up the little menu, and then I click call for pickup. Although with this update they did bring out a bunch more hotkeys, which honestly the hotkeys have just been amazing. And you can actually press 1 to call for pickup. So if you press 1 on your keyboard, the call for pickup pop-up will come up and you can say yes. But I actually ended up personally, I still click escape, call for pickup, and okay all super quickly, just because the more you do it and the more you do it regularly, like my brain and my mouse, like my hands, I just kind of know where those buttons are going to be, so I can click them with the, excuse the pun, with the click of a button, with a snap of the fingers. So honestly, I didn't end up minding that much. The next thing is kind of like a positive and negative thing. Now, you guys might have noticed, but the champ pop-up is in the middle of your screen. When I first saw this, I was like, oh my gosh, it looks so out of place, especially since it's still like the old user interface. But actually, by the end of it, I was kind of enjoying it. I kind of like it being in the center of the screen and having such a contrast. I still hope that they update it so it's still contrasty, but it still fits the theme of all the other user interface. But I actually like it being in the center because I actually see when the next championship is. Whereas a lot of the time, I've actually realized when it was over in the top right hand side, I like just never paid attention to it. So I never really knew when the champ was, and I was always missing it because I would look down at my clock and be like, oh my gosh, it's like 7:01 and the champ was at 7 obviously. So it's kind of nice to actually see those reminders. However, that might just be because, you know, I've been playing Star Stable for 10 years. I've just like phased out of my peripheral vision the champ, so maybe I'll get used to it and not see it anymore again. I'm not sure. There was one negative thing about it being in the center of the screen though, because I'm training, and if a champ pop-up comes up when I'm in a race, a lot of the races have, you know, the time bar. They have how long you've been racing and how long you have until the next checkpoint, and the champ actually comes up right behind that thing. So if I was in a race when the champ notification popped up, I actually didn't see it. So that's just a small little thing that I hope that they fix. The next thing is the fading quest exclamation marks. I actually ended up finding this kind of annoying. I don't entirely know why they did this. I hope that they might adjust it a little bit. I found it more annoying because it kept confusing me. I'd be really close to a race person and be like, wait a second, have I already done this race today? I haven't trained today. And just confused me, but it was also really difficult when looking for animals around Starshine Ranch, especially the chickens. The chickens would just hide, and I swear I have probably missed so many chickens because they're so small, and I used to be able to see them from a distance, whereas now, like, you gotta like run over them to be able to see them. And also there's this weird thing which I didn't notice before, and I'm guessing it's probably because of this exclamation mark fading thing, is that a lot of NPCs' hair is just fading out of existence, and I'm thinking that it's connected, like the hair might be connected to the exclamation mark. I'm not even sure. But the hair fading out of existence, it's not super realistic, you know? Let's talk about the actual horse progression screen. Now, I personally haven't really looked through it that much because once I know when the next, what the levels are, like I know that you unlock your horse following you at level 7 and things like that. Imagine if I got that wrong. Maybe I did, but I know that, so I haven't really spent a lot of time in there. I really like the features of horse progression, which we will get to, but the horse progression screen, it's fine. I don't know how else they would be able to do it without it feeling the way that it does. But I just find a little bit of the scrolling of it might be a little bit funny, but honestly, it's okay. It's fine. Finally, we spoke about hotkeys. Now, honestly, I haven't been using too many of the hotkeys, but I really like the hotkey for the horse radial menu. I've always been a little bit unsure when they first released the horse radial menu for for caring for your horses. I was like, this feels like a mobile game, and it still kind of does in a way, but it kind of feels less so when I use the hotkey, I suppose. I like it a little bit better. Let's move on to the actual features of horse progression. First things first, horse care providing XP is amazing. I mean, I think it's really cool, but it does mean that I actually have to feed my horses food. Now I do buy stable care, and I'm going to continue buying stable care because I just go through so many horses with my training routine that I prefer to have happy horses and just still pay for the stable care. I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. But I really like that I can even just simply brush and hoof pick and give my horse some water, and I just get instant, 75 XP for each thing. I sometimes skip food because I don't really want to start buying food, but I guess training also gets you a bunch of Jorvik shillings, so it's fine. But yeah, horse care, epic. Let's talk about the follow feature. Honestly, I haven't actually use these features a lot just because I've only been focusing on training right now in Star Stable. I haven't been doing many other things. I've been scripting videos, editing videos, doing other things, and none of those videos have used the follow or call. I was actually really excited for the follow and call to be able to use them in unique ways in role plays, but I've actually been a little bit disappointed with the execution of follow and call. For the follow animation, although I did realize when I was filming this video, I'm not entirely sure whether they'll be able to fix up the things that I don't like about follow, because the way that your horse follows you is kind of similar to the way that the animals in Starshine Ranch follow you, where if they get too close to you, then they just suddenly stop, and then they wait for you to get a further distance away, and then they'll start following you again. But it's just really obnoxious, I suppose, with our horse. When I'm walking along, you can walk in a straight line and it's decently okay, but as soon as you start moving around or things like that, the horse will just kind of walk and stop and trot. Oh, stop, and it's just it's not smooth. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not a smooth animation, and if you're running, it's okay for a little bit longer, but then it just goes from a canter to a halt really quickly, and then it'll pick it back up again, and it'll trot, canter up to you, and then it'll halt because it gets too close to you, I suppose. But because the animals in Starshine Ranch actually do the same thing, I'm not actually sure whether they'll be able to fix this, I suppose. And the call feature is pretty cool, although because I'm training all my horses to level 10, I'm not even getting that feature yet. I'll have to get it when I go around all of my horses a second time. But from what I've seen and experienced of it, I'm not sure if this is just because, you know, when horse progression was first released last Wednesday, it was super glitchy. No, 2 Wednesday, whenever it was released, it was super glitchy. Your horse would just not walk up to you. But now they've made it so that you call your horse and it just kind of fades into existence from behind you. And I'm not sure if, like, because it was working better in this sense when it first came out, even though you would call your horse, mount your horse right away, and if you dismounted your horse, then the game glitched out, but you actually saw the horse run somewhere. But there is limitations to this system. For example, it would probably create lag or something if you were trying to call your horse from the other side of Jorvik. That's when the fading in feature would make sense. But I just wish that it would fade in from like a distance further in front of you, so I can actually still use it as an aesthetic feature for roleplays. Moving along from that though, we have the shared moments. I actually really love the shared moments because they get you some sweet XP. They do remind you though every half an hour. I'm like, oh yep, I spend a lot of time training. But in the same way, it's kind of like sometimes I use it as a notification for me to take a break. You know, I'm like, oh, okay, half an hour, I'll go walk away from the computer for like however long. I might go do some cleaning in the kitchen and then come back, do a little bit more training. I might do some work and things like that. But the shared moments are also really cool because you can go AFK and still get XP throughout the day. I feel like it's kind of cheaty doing that. I don't know. Once I finish all of my training, I actually have sometimes just been going AFK at championships, and then I collect the shared moments, do a champ, and I have just been training so many horses. So shared moments are a big up for me. The thing that I did find though was they were becoming a little bit repetitive, and in the video that you guys are seeing as B-roll, but I actually sometimes don't even pay attention to what the horse is trying to tell me because I'm like, no, I've seen this one, I don't care what I respond anymore. So it really depends, because sometimes I'm like, oh yes, let's get into the horse bonding, and sometimes I'm like, give me that sweet XP. I don't fully understand how it works, but from what I can tell, when you're a lower level you only get like, you know, 100 XP, but as you get higher, like when my horses were like level 9, I was getting like 300 400 XP, which was really cool. And I guess that's based on how much your bonding level is of your horse. Let's talk about gaining speed at certain levels instead of every single level. Personally, I didn't notice a massive difference in how fast my horses were. That was fine for me. Once again, I'm a trainer, I'm not a racer, and I'm not a championship person. When I do championships, it's purely for the XP. I'm not trying to get that need for speed, but maybe that'll change once I've trained all my horses. Once, if I ever do. But let's talk about, you know, the whole level 13 and level 15 thing. Now, as I'm only training my horses to level 10 right now, I honestly don't have much to say about it from experience, but my plan, I actually am not hating it because I can definitely see why Star Stable did it. I've mentioned before how it's so weird. Like, it's epic that championships have XP, but it just seems so strange. If you want to do a championship and you wanted to win, you had to be on a level 15 horse. You weren't even taking advantage of that XP. Whereas now, if you're a championship person and you're level 13, you can still win the championship, but you can still get XP towards training your horses. So I really like that aspect, even though I personally am not in it for the ribbons. However, I actually kind of like it from the way that I'm training. It's a little chaotic for some people, but I really like it for me. I really like the fact that I can quote-unquote train a horse every day. I've been training horses to level 10, which you can do in a single day. And then I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get from level 10 to level 13 in a day. So then I'll be able to go through all my horses again and quote-unquote train a horse a day, and then go back and go from level 13 to 15 in a day. And honestly, it feels kind of nice. So I'm okay with it. I kind of like it for that reason as well. Next up, we have the toggle horse levels, specifically the animation. Now this one, I've seen a lot of people not like, and I myself was a little bit dubious, is that the right word of it at first? Because I was like, oh, this seems so annoying. Like, if you're level 1, and when you're level 1, those really low levels, you're like leveling up every few races. But I actually ended up really liking this feature because I don't see a way that Star Stable would do it something different, because I really like this feature because it gets like, I can aesthetically take pictures for my Instagram story whenever I train a horse to level 10, and I can choose the background and I can just level up whenever. So I really like that aspect, and I found that honestly, once again, kind of like the call for pickup, the buttons, I just clicked them super quickly and I just went on with my day. You can even like start running and then the horse does a little rear, but then you just kind of start running again, you know. So it is a little inconvenient, but I would really dislike if Star Stable was like, okay, we'll make your horse level up automatically level 1, 2, 3, 4, and then, oh, you get an animation at 5. Because then, you know, what if I wanted a special animation for my Instagram at level 4 or something? Anyway, so I've come to like it as well. This video has turned out a lot longer than I expected, but I always do that. I just speak too much, you guys. So in terms of a lot of the feedback that I got from you guys was honestly super similar, I suppose. There's things which you can just see the different perspectives. As I said, if you're someone who doesn't want to train, it does kind of suck to have your special moves locked behind a level, but I think the fact that they've added on to the whole training system is pretty cool for those who do train, because it's no longer just... Sorry, my mother just texted me and disrupted my train of thought. It's no longer just for speed. There's also different things. Some people have said that they personally haven't felt how this would build their bond, and other people have said that they feel that bond. And I have to say that I guess for me, it has kind of been helping build the bond, but not entirely. But I also guess it just depends on how you personally, like, emotionally feel connected to video games. You might just be someone who doesn't get connected to pixel horses the same way as other people, and it might just take doing something different. And unfortunately, that's something that Star Stable can't nail on the head with just one update, I suppose. So I'd be really interested to hear what you guys would think would help you feel more bonded with your horses and things like that. I personally have just been really enjoying training horses every day, because that's what gets me to get to know the horse, but also buying less horses. When I buy less horses, I actually have time to ride them instead of buying like 5 horses at a time. Shout out to 2020 me. Oh my goodness, what was she thinking? I was just excited. But yeah, I would only ride like one of those horses, and that's why I've got like 7 pages of like level 1 horses, you guys. So yeah, unfortunately the your response section has to be cut a little bit short, because I do quickly want to cover section 3, which is what Star Stable kind of said about horse bonding and the feature that we are still expecting. And yeah, I definitely think that this is not the end of horse bonding, and even beyond the features that they've spoken about in previous blog posts, we will get more. So let's move into it. On March 28th of 2022, we got one of our first discussions about horse bonding. Horse bonding, it was called at the time. And they stated, as a first step, we are trying to inspire roleplay by giving players additional narrative options such as age and gender to explore who their horse might be. We also explored alternative options for the concept art that appears when clicking buy horse. Instead of showing a generic loading screen, imagine a cutscene of the horse approaching you, indicating that this is the start of your shared journey. First with the new customization options, and soon with some purchasing improvements. After that, we are looking to improve the leveling experience and explore horse personalities. So from this, we obviously have been very familiar with the new horse purchasing window for a while now, and we have now moved into the improving the leveling experience. But by the sounds of it, from what I can read from this excerpt, I cannot speak, I'm so sorry, I'm tired, it's late at night. But we are like the next step, I suppose, of horse bonding is actually going to be horse personalities, I suppose. So I'm intrigued to see what that's going to be about. But I think Star Stable has a lot on their plate right now with their new character, and even just perfecting this whole leveling experience first with the following cool features that I spoke about. I want to see those fixed up a little bit before we move into horse personalities. I think there's just so much that Star Stable could add, and there's just so much limited time because I also want to see new areas, but that's just another massive undertaking. So yeah. Next up, we have the blog post of the 2022 year in review. Horse personalization means you can change your horse's name directly in the horse detail sheet and select the age and gender of every horse you own. While these details currently don't directly impact gameplay, they can directly impact your personal equestrian experience. This is something that I still don't really, not every single one of my horses has an age and gender if they were before the whole horse purchasing window. But I know that that is a really big thing for some people, especially role players. I still wish we got a little note section that was just for us so we could write anything, so that I could write the little nicknames of my horses. They do say, well, these details currently don't directly impact gameplay. Now, obviously, they're not promising anything. They're not even leaking anything here. This is just our brains going wild. But hey, they said currently. So there might be something planned in the future, because they have said that as part of their Passion Week or something, they have been talking about horse breeding and things like that, which would obviously impact stallion, gelding, and mare. Next up, in September 30th, 2022, we have the horse progression. Now, it's really interesting because they kind of moved away from calling it horse bonding to horse progression, unless they're two different things, because I guess horse progression is the horse leveling aspect, and horse bonding is the purchasing, leveling, and future personalities as a whole. They stated, for us, the horse XP levels don't just mean a horse's power level, they represent the growing strength of the relationship between rider and horse and your ability to work and move together as one. I have to say that it does kind of make sense that they lock special move behind levels, because you do kind of train horses to do that. You have to have that bond in real life to have a horse's trust. So it does make sense, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't suck any less for those people who don't like training and still want to take pictures with a special move or something. But it does kind of make sense, you know? Star Stable says, we want you to be able to spend as much time training with your horses as you like, so we're updating the rules around competing in races. You will now be able to compete in daily races multiple times per day, once for each of your horses, which is obviously a feature that we do not have yet, but I'm super excited for, because, 3 hours of training wasn't enough. But to be real, a lot of the time, I barely have time to train. Like today, I barely had time to train, but I managed to squeeze level 10 out of a horse. But sometimes, I'm having a chill day. It's the weekend maybe, and I got nothing else going on. So it would be epic to literally spend 12 hours training and level 4 horses from level 1 to level 10 and just tick them off my list. So I'm pretty excited for that one. Now, this is actually a really interesting thing that they said. They actually stated all the way back in September 2022, we're going to give you a button to actually level the horse up, and we'll show you what new features you've unlocked for that horse. So I feel like I completely forgot that they said this. I glazed over the fact, and I feel like I was surprised when they made a button that you could press, and people were complaining about it or surprised by it too. And I was like, oh, during this research, I read that and I was like, they literally told us? I forgot. Maybe other people didn't and they still don't like it, which is fair enough. You're allowed to not like it. But I was like, wait, they actually told us they were adding a button, and I just completely forgot. The last little thing that I found during my research was this. After our first big release with these updates, we will look at polishing and refining some of our work with horse purchasing and horse progression. It's too soon to hint at what the next big project will be, but we assure you that we will focus on making horses even better in Star Stable. So I feel like that's a really beautiful way to end off this video. Once again, this is from my perspective. From your perspective will be different depending on where you get your enjoyment from and why you even play the game in general. So definitely let me know what you guys, what your perspective of playing Star Stable is, and how you have actually felt about horse progression now that we've had it for a while. This video is very long, I'm very sorry, but I hope you guys did enjoy it. On the screen right now is going to be my strategy for training 300 plus horses. You might be confused why I keep saying that I'm training my horses to level 10. Why not train to level 15? Well, the answer is in that video, alongside my opinions on horse progression before it even came out, if you're interested in that as well. I love you guys so much, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye!